When Philip Seymour Hoffman got his own apartment, people whispered he was cheating on his wife. She said nothing about the rumors, because the truth was so much worse. Throughout Philip Seymour Hoffman's all-too-brief 22-year acting career, his roles were wide-ranging. His love for the craft was well known, and he was eventually considered to be the best of his generation. But his genius had a dark side. Even as his acclaim grew, Hoffman still struggled until the day he was suddenly ripped from us much too soon. Philip Seymour Hoffman was born on July 23, 1967, in Fairport, New York. His mother was Marilyn O'Connor, and his father was Gordon Stowell Hoffman. He was one of 4 children, but that didn't stop his mother from earning a degree and becoming a family court judge. Her dedication to her career clearly rubbed off on her son. While he was baptized in the Catholic order, Hoffman was never an outwardly religious person later in life. His parents weren't especially interested in raising their children within that constraint. Not that his father had much to say in his kids' lives. His parents divorced when he was 9, and his mother was his and his siblings' primary caregiver. Philip Seymour Hoffman was 12 when he had his first encounter with the arts. He saw a performance of All My Sons by Arthur Miller. Later, he saw 2 other plays, one starring a young Robert Downey Jr., and his love for the arts bloomed. His mother encouraged his interests, and she took him to many performances to ensure he was able to participate in what he enjoyed. She couldn't have realized how high he would climb, or how low he would sink. Throughout his childhood, Hoffman loved sports, especially baseball and wrestling. Maybe he could have had a different, longer life, but at 14, it all came crashing down. A painful neck injury brought his sporting career to an end. He had to pivot his focus to something new, and the drama club at school had his back. With his mother's support, he signed up and never looked back. Hoffman graduated from NYU Tisch School of the Arts in 1989 with a drama degree. It seemed like this was the beginning of something great. His acting was getting some traction, and he had some side jobs to support him. In reality, the jobs were hard to keep, and the acting roles were hard to find. Then, things took a dark turn. Hoffman made his first foray into the world of addiction. It began when he succumbed to hard partying, which is saying something for the New York party scene. At that point, drinking was just the tip of the iceberg, and his experience with substances would go far deeper, far faster than he expected. Hoffman used whatever he could and whatever caught his interest. He drank heavily and used non-prescription substances regularly, but when he turned 22, something changed. He panicked and realized this wasn't what he wanted for his life. If he didn't stop now, something horrible would happen to him. At age 22, Hoffman made a decision that changed the subsequent 2 decades of his life. He checked himself into rehab. This wisdom is what allowed his acting pursuits to truly begin and for Philip's acting abilities to flourish post-sobriety. But his future partner, Mimi O'Donnell, stated that just because he was clean didn't mean the addiction had gone away. As we'll see, this couldn't be more accurate. Hoffman debuted on screen in 1991 in an episode of Law & Order.
Look at me! Do you hear me, Katana? You hear me? I want you to know exactly what...
And the following year, he appeared in a film for the first time. That was when he added Seymour to his stage name, in an attempt to avoid being confused with another actor. These 2 appearances set him up for one special opportunity. Next, Hoffman landed a role in director Martin Brest's Scent of a Woman in 1992 with Al Pacino. He did 5 auditions, and the film changed the direction of his life. He got a ton of notice after the film made $134 million worldwide.
Now don't hold me to this, but no contacts, it's dark.
Even later in life, he said that if he hadn't landed that role, he wouldn't be where he was today. This prompted him to take a major risk. At a pivotal moment in his journey, Hoffman quit his side job at a deli and began working full-time as an acting professional, and it paid off. He began to collaborate with young filmmakers like Paul Thomas Anderson and the Coen brothers, and by the end of 1999, his star was on the rise. The reputation he carved out for himself was unique, but for him, it was perfect. Hoffman's role in the 90s ranged from a complete unabashed loser, to one of the creepiest characters in American movies, to a drag queen in Joel Schumacher's Flawless. But even with these oddball characters he played, Hoffman's talent shone through in a way no one could deny. Critics acclaimed the way he would bring such an embarrassingly raw performance to his roles regardless of the character's flaws. Even other Hollywood actors saw the raw talent and empathy Hoffman gave to each of his roles. Meryl Streep, who was one of his idols, said, "This actor is fearless. He's given this awful character the respect he deserves, and he's made him fascinating." But the biggest role of his filmography was yet to come. Hoffman landed film after film into the early 2000s, and he expanded the range of characters he played. Not only that, but he met the woman he'd be with for the rest of his life in 1999. Mimi O'Donnell came into his life when he brought her onto a project as a costume designer. Little did either of them know they'd found their life partners. When they first met, the two were already in a relationship with other people. This stalled their romantic connection for a while, but allowed them to explore one another in different ways. Mimi said they fell for each other artistically first, before anything happened on the romantic front. But before anything more could happen between them, Hoffman had to confide in her his darkest secret. He had been sober for about a decade by the time he met Mimi, but as the pair started dating in 2001, he saw that their relationship was going to last. He admitted his past to her, disclosing his experience with addiction. She said he was very frank about his history and treated it with the weight it deserved. But fortunately, this shadow in his past seemed exactly that, a shadow. Hoffman landed the lead role in 2005's Capote, a film about controversial writer Truman Capote and his book In Cold Blood, written in 1965. For an actor who'd seemingly done everything, depicting an eccentric American author was a new challenge, and one that he was so excited to take on. As he had in previous roles, Hoffman fell into the character completely. Hoffman's method meant he spent over 4 months preparing for the film. He took intense care to analyze Truman Capote's mannerisms and tendencies, all of his little quirks. About the part, he said, "The part required me to be a little unbalanced, and that wasn't really good for my mental health." Not only that, but there was another layer of discomfort he dealt with. Hoffman manipulated his body to conform to Truman Capote's stature. He even lost weight for the role, but that didn't compare to pitching his voice high enough to mimic the well-known tones of the author.
Feel like you're spiting me. Do you think I took this job to spite you?
He didn't let himself relax between takes. He said he had to stay in character all day, otherwise he would give his body a chance to bail on him. The actor's respect for the characters he played was immense. It was his approach to every single role, and about the eccentric writer, he said he felt that he had to express the vitality and the nuances Truman had in his life. The effort he put into respectfully and accurately portraying the author primed him for award season. His effort was all worth it. After Capote hit screens in 2005, Hoffman won the Academy Award for Best Actor. This was his first Oscar, and the first award he'd received for a leading role in a film, as many of his other awards were for either Best Supporting Actor or for stage performances. Still a young man, Philip Seymour Hoffman was running out of mountains to climb, but for him, it was all about the work. In 2006, interviewers asked him why he played characters who had such undeniably negative qualities. He said, "I didn't go out looking for negative characters. I went out looking for people who have a struggle and a fight to tackle. That's what interests me." But sometimes this meant he wound up with very unflattering roles, and this perception bled out into real life. Despite all of Hoffman's jaw-dropping performances, he still felt like audiences in Hollywood didn't quite see him. Many interviews and articles described him using negative descriptors, reducing his off-screen presence to his physical attributes. He said, "A lot of people describe me as chubby, stocky, fair-skinned, tow-headed. I'm waiting for someone to say that I'm at least cute, but nobody has." Philip Seymour Hoffman was becoming a true household name, and he decided to make his official jaunt into directing. In 2012, he released his first and only directorial effort, Jack Goes Boating. However, this time, the critics turned on him. One called it a film so weak I could barely remember what it was about as I left. But luckily, on the acting front, Hoffman was soaring higher than ever. He balanced artistic pursuits, like starring in Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master with Joaquin Phoenix, with more commercial choices, like appearing in the Hunger Games franchise. The blockbuster series brought his name to younger audiences, and he had a fantastic filmography for them to look back on. It seemed like he was only becoming more famous. But tragedy waited in the wings during some of his most successful years. After his eventual passing, Mimi O'Donnell revealed the stressors that Hoffman was dealing with at the time, including aging, friends' marriages deteriorating around him, and his therapist losing a battle with cancer. To add to that, he and his AA friends ran into problems, and he was facing a love-hate relationship with acting. It was becoming too much to bear. On acting, Hoffman said he held himself to high standards. In 2012, he said, "The job isn't difficult. Doing it well is difficult." He also disclosed that the desire to act is easy, but trying to be great, well, that's absolutely torturous. His constant shifting between love and loathing acting was familiar to those in his life, including a surprising well-known author. John le Carré and Hoffman worked together on the film adaptation of A Most Wanted Man. They spent enough time together for John to get a good read on Hoffman and his work ethic. John said it was painful and exhausting work, and probably in the end his undoing. The world was too bright for him to handle. External forces were starting to pile up for Hoffman. Mimi revealed that Hoffman asked for her thoughts on him drinking again, what she later stated was a red flag, and how he subsequently would have a drink or two per week. For a while, it didn't seem like it was affecting him. He seemed in control of his temptations. That is, until something worse sucked him back down. In 2012, the shadows of his past addictions had fully reared their heads again. For a whole year, Hoffman became dependent on prescription substances in addition to drinking. This brought back every bit of his addiction in full force. Everything he thought he'd left behind 23 years ago came flooding back. Hoffman became unpredictable and turbulent. He even started falling asleep during interviews while promoting The Master at the Venice Film Festival. Then, in early 2013, he turned to an even more harmful substance. After a week of using the hard substance, Hoffman admitted himself for a 10-day stint at a detoxification facility in an effort to stop the returning habit in its tracks. Unfortunately, his first effort to regain control wasn't successful. Once he left the facility, he and Mimi agreed he'd move to a separate apartment near their family home. This was so that he didn't put their children in danger, nor subject them to hearing the details of his habits. But this meant he was often alone. Mimi recalled that she was extremely concerned, and she was right to be. Rumors began to spread about their separate living situation. Some thought Hoffman and Mimi's relationship was on the rocks, and some claimed they separated in 2013. But Mimi stated after the fact that she and Philip were dedicated to their romantic partnership. Even in the throes of his substance use, Mimi stood by his side and supported him as best as she could. Mimi recalls telling him that his relapse into the abuse of substances would be the end of him. She said, "Every day was filled with worry. Every night when he went out, I wondered, will I ever see him again?" The relationship may not have been unstable, but Hoffman was certainly going through a turbulent time. Her worries only increased when Hoffman took another downward turn. Hoffman traded prescription substances for non-prescription ones, the same ones he grappled with the first time he was deep into his addictions. He tried valiantly to get his desires under control, even going so far as to go back to rehab. He only used the dangerous non-prescription substances for about a week before realizing he needed the intensive help of rehab again. His close friend, Shalom Auslander, revealed that Hoffman's time in the facility was worse than expected. Shalom alleges that a fellow patient in the rehabilitation facility had nefarious intentions. Up until this point, Hoffman had kept his time recovering a secret from prying eyes. This patient destroyed his privacy when they supposedly took several videos of the actor in secret during group therapy. Shalom then stated that they sold the tapes to a news website. Allegedly, the news website used the tapes to blackmail Hoffman into giving an exclusive interview. If he didn't agree, they would release the sensitive material, detailing his difficulties with addiction to the public. Philip didn't want his actions to affect his 3 children, so he went along with the interview. Those last few months were beginning to take their toll. Hoffman left rehab sometime in late 2013, and it seemed like he was getting better. He left the facility after completing a detox of all the substances in his system, leaving him with nearly a blank slate to return to sobriety. He even thanked a great group of friends and family for their support during this trying time. It was an improvement, but there was still a long way to go before he could put this behind him. When Shalom saw Hoffman on the set of their upcoming 2013 TV series, Happy-ish, the actor was irritable and erratic. Shalom attributes this to the ongoing detox, which often comes with nausea, pain, and other uncomfortable symptoms. But he also expressed frustration in himself for not having recognized the signs of drug abuse all along. Unbeknownst to everyone, this would be the last time Hoffman appeared before the cameras. In a few days after filming the pilot for Happy-ish, Shalom said Hoffman seemed to be back to his old self. They even planned their next moves should the series get picked up, and scheduled meetings to discuss scripts. But as they went their separate ways, Shalom had a strange impulse to tell Hoffman, "Don't go die on me." Hoffman laughed at the statement. Little did they know, Shalom's words rang with foreshadowing. Around the same time, Hoffman's partner Mimi noticed he was isolating himself. While he worked on The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, he had let go of substances for the moment, but that didn't mean he was out of the water. Mimi grew concerned for his well-being and asked others to check in on him. She suspected there was more to his behavior than he was letting on. Mimi's efforts were futile. He started using again, but this time, his battle with addiction came to a swift end. It was mere days later that Mimi lost the love of her life and the father of her children to this terrible illness. Though it was something she expected from the first day he began using again, she was still devastated and distraught over this sudden loss. Hoffman's friend, playwright David Barr Katz, played the final note in this dirge of misery. He went by to visit Philip at his Manhattan apartment, but there wasn't a response. David entered and found Philip lifeless in the bathroom on February 2nd, 2014. This loss destroyed Mimi and their children. Regardless of whether Mimi saw it coming, the impact was no lighter for it. She credits her children for helping her combat her grief, forcing her to get out of bed and keep them all alive during their biggest time of need. Hoffman and Mimi had been together for 15 years at the time of his passing.
For exclusive perks like early access to new videos, priority replies to your comments, and to have your say on future content, consider becoming a Factinate member. On top of that, your support helps keep the channel going. Click the link in the description for more details.
While many surrounding the actor had claimed Hoffman's dependence was under control, authorities found many different non-prescription substances in both his apartment and in his body. Katz said about the incident, "I saw him last week and he was clean and sober, his old self. I really thought this chapter was over."
The tragic death of actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, a performer who was known for his extraordinary range. He was also known for his honesty.
Philip Seymour Hoffman was only 46 years old. He was nearing the end of filming his role for The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2.
In the meantime, make yourself comfortable.
But he lost his battle with substances before he could complete 2 final scenes. The filmmakers rewrote the scene so other characters could fill the void his absence left in the script. But even so, his loss was devastating for both cast and crew and beyond. Many locals who lived in his neighborhood claimed to feel the impact of Hoffman's passing. One neighbor said about the actor, "You see him with his kids in the coffee shops. He is so sweet. It's desperately sad." And it wasn't just those who lived near him who felt the impact of this loss. His hometown in Fairport, New York, revealed a statue of Hoffman in 2022. It was created by Scottish sculptor David A. Anand and commissioned by James Declan Tobin, a film producer who had become friends with Hoffman's mother at the 2015 Sundance Film Festival. Hoffman's mother, Marilyn, praised the art piece and said it was a loving memorial for her son. Addiction was always present in Hoffman's life. His experience with it likely influenced many of his roles too, as he wasn't afraid to take on characters who dealt with the same issues he did. But the difficult thing about addiction is that it only takes one slip-up to send someone right back to the depths of their struggles. This is what happened to Philip Seymour Hoffman. If you are dealing with addiction or know someone who is, please seek out help. There are resources out there to help you. Hoffman's tragic battle with substances is not an uncommon one, but it's important to get support for those dealing with the same issues. If you enjoyed this Factinate video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. Want to say in who we cover next? Join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.